Welcome back. In this lecture, we are going to see the Terraform output values demo. So we are in the HashiCorp certified Terraform associate GitHub repository. Inside that 05 Terraform variables section, inside that we are going inside 0502 Terraform output values. So in our previous lecture, we have completed the introductory part of output values. So now we are going to focus on the basics of output values. So the Terraform manifest folder will be the subfolder we are going to use, and we are going to implement the outputs now. We'll go to Visual Studio Code and then first review the Terraform manifests or configuration files and then implement the output values for that respective scenario. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code, and if you see in 0502 Terraform output values in Terraform manifest folder, so you can see something called C1 versions.tf, which is our standard one, and C2 variables, so which we have defined earlier also in our previous sections, AWS region, AMI ID, and also instance type. So in this one is missing from the previous one, which is instance count. Okay, so that is wantedly removed. So when you go to other sections here, why we have removed for output values, you will know here when we go into deeper sections of output value implementations when we are implementing the bigger use cases here. Okay, but for now instance count is removed, and then you will see only the EC2 instance type. And security groups, both VPC SSH and then VPC web are available here, so which is from the previous sections. And from EC2 instance perspective, so only the count is equal to 1 or count is equal to 2 is removed. Okay, so why? Because when you use the count, the output you need to define should be in a different way. That we will see in when we are dealing with the advanced sections here. Okay, first we are learning the basics of outputs. So I really don't want to create a complex scenario where use the count for multiple instances and output the multiple instances of output using star, how you are going to do it. So all those things I have removed. I have made it very simple for output values here. So in that there is no count parameter. Okay, that said, count is removed for that respective reason. And once this section is over, I will anyway explain in Terraform workspaces where this count is used. So when you use the count for EC2 instance with 1 or 2 values, so with outputs you need to add the star here. Okay, so that we are going to see in this advanced section when we are dealing with the workspaces. But for now, we will learn the basics of outputs. Okay, so now we know that versions.tf and then variables.tf, security groups, and EC2 instance with file function. So these are standard ones which you have seen in your previous input variables and then previous sections too. Okay, now you are going to output these values from this information. Okay, so for outputting these values from this information, we have created a C5 outputs.tf. Okay, and we are going to output the following information. Okay, so the following information is we are going to output the EC2 public IP, EC2 instance private IP, and security groups associated to that EC2 instance, and also we are going to create a public DNS URL, okay, with attribute reference. Okay, so we'll see all these things in a step-by-step manner now by defining all these things. Okay, if you want, you can reference the EC2 instance documentation here. Okay, so from EC2 instance documentation, few things will be important here: attribute reference and then argument reference. Okay, so attribute reference means whatever is available for you in the attribute reference section. Okay, in the same way for argument reference, so what is available in the argument reference section. Okay, so AMI, associate public IP address, okay, availability zones, all these are available from the argument reference. Okay, after this you will find something called attribute reference. So if you go down here, so you will also find from attribute reference. So I can directly search for, remove this, or I can just say here, see, attribute reference. Okay, argument reference and attribute reference. So from attribute reference also, what all things you can output will be listed here, and then few things you can even output via argument reference. So those also you can output and then see those values. Okay, so if you go here, let's start writing the first output value for us. So we have discussed a lot about on a high level about these outputs, and then what we are going to do here, and then why we are not using the super advanced using of outputs with star and then in combination with count. So now we are going to define this. Okay, so control space and output. So now my first one is EC2 instance public IP, right? So as usual, you can provide your description here, right? EC2 instance public IP, and here in outputs you will have something called value. Okay, so value of this will be like a resource type dot local name of that resource dot this respective attribute. Okay, so you are saying attribute reference, so go to attribute reference and search for the public IP. So if you go here, so this is the public IP. So how you need to define this is resource type dot resource local name dot this value. So let's define that. So let's go to EC2 instance here, and this is the resource type, which is AWS instance dot resource local name, which is my EC2 VM dot, and for public IP you need to output the public IP. Okay, so it is a attribute reference. Okay, so go here to attribute reference and find this public underscore IP. So write that down, public underscore IP. So this outputs the EC2 instance public IP after the instance is created using Terraform apply. Okay, in the same line, so let's do the same for control space output, and name is going to be EC2 instance underscore private IP, and description is going to be EC2 instance private IP, and value it is going to be again resource type dot local name of the resource and the information from where it is present in attribute reference or argument reference, wherever it is not an issue. Okay, go and then find that there and get the exact name. Okay, so go down private underscore IP. Okay, so it is present in the argument reference. Okay, wherever it is, that is fine. So just take it and then write it. So private underscore IP. So in the same way, write for security groups also. So our thing is control space output, and name is EC2 security groups, and provide the description here, and description here is list security groups associated with EC2 instance. Okay, and now the value, let's provide the value here. As usual, it is the same thing. Okay, resource type dot local name of the resource, okay, dot security groups. Okay, so how it is present here, let's search for security groups. You can see here it is present in argument reference security underscore groups, security underscore groups will list the all the groups associated with this respective EC2 instance, which is nothing but VPC SSH and then VPC web. So the next thing is create a public DNS URL. Okay, so I'll say control space output and EC2 underscore public DNS appended with HTTP. Okay, so now I'll say description and public DNS URL of an EC2 instance, and let's also provide the value here. Okay, so value is going to be http:// right, and $ flower bracket close. Okay, now as usual this will be their resource type dot local name, okay, of the resource, and now you need to get the public DNS. Okay, so if you say public underscore DNS, you will find it in attribute references. Okay, so it is public underscore DNS. So this completes the creation of the output values from attribute references few values and from argument references few values, and also here you have appended with HTTP. Okay, just for simply namesake. Okay, so when you are writing it in you are appending something or writing inside in double quotes, you need to use the dollar open and then close flower brackets for your respective references. Okay, so that's the thing. So now let's close this and go to that location, right, and then start running the Terraform init. Okay, so we are in 05 Terraform variables and 0502 Terraform output values, and inside the Terraform manifest. Okay, and as usual we'll say Terraform init for initializing and downloading the provider information, and the next step moves on with Terraform validate. Okay, if you want you can run the format, I will leave it to you. So you can run Terraform format. So I can run the Terraform plan first, and after that I will apply and then see whether it outputs the values for us. Okay, so it is saying that 3 resources are going to add. One is EC2 instance and another one is two of the security groups. That is good. Okay, so now here also it says that changes to outputs. So whenever it has created these 3 resources, you will get a EC2 instance private IP which will be known after apply, its public IP known after apply, public DNS known after apply, and then security groups known after apply. Okay, so I'll say Terraform apply auto approve, and then let's wait for the EC2 instance to get created, and these values will be outputted immediately after that. Okay, so let's wait for it to complete. So our EC2 instance got created, and you can see an additional information here in the terminal output, which is EC2 instance private IP you have got, EC2 instance public IP you have got, EC2 public DNS also you have got. In addition to that, you also got the security group list, which is VPC SSH and then VPC web. The list of files also it got displayed. So if you want, you can access this to access your application installed inside. So let's access this, and you have the application available for you. In the same way, you can access using your public IP also, right? And you can match these information, cross check with your EC2 instance created, right? So if you see here 3 236 68 83, so it is the same thing, right? So instance public IP. In the same way, if you want, private IP also ends with .58, right? And whatever the security groups associated, VPC web and VPC SSH, so those also it is listing. So this is what outputs got listed for us. Okay, so this completes the outputs implementation. So in our next lecture, we'll focus on other steps of the outputs. So I'll see you in the next lecture. Until then, bye bye. Thank you.